Hey there, just wanted to start off with a little fun trailer. We're getting back to travel and getting to watch some videos of us traveling is really fun to do. So hello, I am here to talk to you a little bit today about what we've had to do so far in order to get ready for our cruise to the Bahamas. So in case you haven't heard, cruising is back. For 15 months, it has not been available at all. Ships have been not dry docked necessarily, floating around, waiting for the chance to come back, and now they have. And so last week, the Celebrity Millennium did its very first cruise out of North America. They are currently sailing out of the Caribbean and the Bahamas because of the U.S. regulations, the CDC regulations. So they announced they were going to start in the Caribbean, and then next month we're going to start seeing them start sailing from the U.S. So I wanted to be on one of the very first ships to go out. I did not get on the Celebrity Millennium, and in fact, the Adventure of the Seas is out at sea right now, finishing up her first 1 week cruise. They get back to port on the 19th, which is 2 days from today, and then I'm getting on board with the whole family. So there's a little bit of extra paperwork, a little bit of extra things you need to do, and for every country it is different. So be sure that before you travel, don't watch this video and think, oh, she's going to the Bahamas and that's exactly what I'm going to have to do. Each country has its own rules. Each cruise line will have its own rules, and they will change. In fact, the rules have changed several times just in the last few weeks for my cruise. And so if you are cruising in, say, July or even August, and you are wondering why you haven't gotten any information about how things will go on your cruise, it is because it may change. And so if they send you something today, that may not be what the rules are tomorrow. So they are waiting until much closer in to let you know and let us as your travel agents know what exactly they're going to do. So as of right now, the first thing to know is vaccinations are required. So there are some ifs, ands, or buts about that, but very few. So right now, for these sailings out of the Caribbean and the Bahamas, everyone on board who is 16 and over must be vaccinated. This is Royal Caribbean, by the way. Each cruise line is different as well. So everybody who is 16 and older must be vaccinated. After August 1st, everyone who is 12 and over must be vaccinated. And by vaccination, that means your second shot or your final shot, if you did the one shot J&J, was 2 weeks before you get on board. So you are not considered fully vaccinated until 2 weeks after your last dose of your vaccine. So this is interesting for my family because we actually, 3 of us are vaccinated completely. And then Marcus, because he is under 16, he wasn't able to get vaccinated until just a little while ago. And we couldn't get him in quite fast enough for him to be at his 2-week because he also had some hockey tryouts. So we didn't want him to we didn't want him to get a shot in the morning and then go try out for hockey that afternoon just in case he had an adverse effect. And so he had to wait a couple of days. So he will actually not be fully vaccinated until Monday. So we board the ship on Saturday and then he'll be fully vaccinated on Monday. So he's going to actually experience sort of a little bit more of the regulations than we will. But of course, as a family, we're all going to experience that together. So the first thing is you need to be vaccinated and have your proof of vaccination. Now, this is my little passport case, just a little travel tip. And also our passports are labeled with our names just to make it a little bit easier in port. So you want to, we are actually keeping our vaccine cards in our passports. We will be asked to show these at the port, and I'll talk about that a little bit later when we get to the end of this, because that's one of the last steps. But vaccination cards will be required. Proof of vaccination will be required. You may be hearing rumors that proof of vaccination won't be required in the U.S. There are states that have put in measures to prevent them asking for proof of vaccination. That doesn't necessarily mean, though, we don't know exactly what it's going to mean, but it doesn't mean that we are going to not be required to be vaccinated. It just means that if you are not vaccinated or if you do not show proof of vaccination, you may have to adhere to other health and safety guidelines. Example might be mask. And I keep saying might because we don't exactly know yet. We're still about a month away from sailing in the US. And so we're still figuring that out. They're still figuring that out. I'm just waiting for them to tell me what's going on. So that proof of vaccination is required. Now, we have a vaccination card for Marcus, and we do have it with us because we would like for him to be able to enjoy the end of his cruise in the fully vaccinated status. And so as we navigate these waters, no pun intended, we'll see how that goes. Okay, so vaccination's first key thing, and that needs to be done before any of these other steps can start taking place. Now, for the Bahamas, they require what is called a travel health visa. And most countries have something like this that you fill out before you go to let them know that you're coming and to prove that you are taking care of yourself and others. So I've printed mine out, but you don't have to. I'm sort of covering all bases just in case we don't have Wi-Fi, but also I wanted to be able to show you, and it's easier than holding up my phone. So this is what the top of it looks like. I have a really junky printer at home, so it's not printed very beautifully. The Bahamas have made it very gorgeous. If it's printed correctly, it looks lovely. This lovely blue, like the blue waters of the Bahamas. So we have one of these for each member of the family. It only took about half an hour for them to turn it around. We couldn't submit Marcus's until last night because he had to have his COVID test before we could submit it. So, and I'll explain that in just a minute. But the rest of us who are vaccinated, we were able to do ours several days ago. And when you fill it out, you get a QR code, and I'm just going to sort of show it briefly because obviously I don't want to put all of our health information on video here. And that QR code we'll need to show that when we get there. And when we get there means also to the airport, because the airport will probably require it as well. Again, more about that in a moment. So for the health visa, you had to provide how you were coming in, where you were coming, what your plans were while you were in the Bahamas. So general visa type questions. So for us, we're coming in by air. We gave them the flight number and the airport. And actually it's all sort of pre-programmed into their system as well. And then we had to provide where we were staying, which in our case is the Adventure of the Seas. We're getting onto the Adventure of the Seas. And so then we sent it in, and literally 20 minutes turnaround, we had it back approved. For Marcus, we finished his at about 5 o'clock last night, so it was waiting for us this morning when we woke up, sat down to our computers. Very quick turnaround. Not all countries are the same. I know St. Lucia is a little bit slower on that, and so I've also heard Jamaica can be. So just know that you need to do it as soon as possible. Obviously, we had limits with Marcus. One of the requirements for getting into the Bahamas is that you must have a PCR test within 5 days of arrival in the Bahamas. So the earliest we could take our PCR tests was Monday. Now, this is required of Royal Caribbean as well as the Bahamas. For the Bahamas, if you have been vaccinated, you don't have to submit proof of a COVID test. Marcus did have to submit it. Everyone in my family took it because Royal Caribbean is also requiring it for everyone. And what they did was they lined it up with the Bahamas requirements so that you could use one test for both things. So we got our COVID test done Wednesday morning. I sort of waited a little bit closer in because there are times, like if your flight is delayed or anything, we've had situations where people are being denied boarding because their test is just a little bit too old. And we did not want that to happen. We, the royal we, did not want to be sitting at the airport being told that we could not get on our flight, especially because we are doing something that I never do, which is fly in same day as cruise. And there's no room for error there. So we all took a COVID test. The other reason that we all took it, and we would have whether Royal Caribbean required it or not, originally Royal Caribbean was going to test us at the port as we boarded, obviously with a rapid test. That is logistically very difficult. Even with a reduced capacity of these ships, that's a lot of people to test. So they decided that they would sort of go in line with what the Bahamas requires. We were going to test anyway because you have to test to come home right now. The U.S. requires that everyone who is traveling to the U.S. have a negative COVID result, antigen result within 3 days of returning to the U.S. Well, I want to test before I go just to lower my chances of being surprised when I'm there and finding that I do have it. Because as you probably know, when you are vaccinated, you still can get the virus. It just will not affect you as much, and it's harder for you to pass it to other people. And Celebrity actually had 2 cases on board on their first cruise. And very interestingly, the 2 people that had it were asymptomatic. They were vaccinated. I think because they had to be. They were asymptomatic, and it was only the 2 of them. It was a couple. So it wasn't that it was like one person from one cabin and one from another or whatever, and it was only 2. And as soon as they identified it in the antigen test to come home, and as soon as Celebrity identified it, they isolated them, kept them very comfortable. Apparently they were not wanting for anything. They had a very pleasant experience and were flown home on a private jet. So Celebrity took very good care of them, and the good news is nobody else got sick. So these horror stories that you heard, and this idea of ships being just where diseases just get passed around, it's just not true. It's very easy in a controlled environment like that to isolate when you know what you're looking for and you know what to do. And the cruise lines have absolutely trained up on that. They have a fleet of medical personnel. And they are testing you in order to come home while you're on the ship. So that is the perfect way to catch something right on time. So that being said, we've now had our COVID test to get into the Bahamas, and we have our travel visas to get into the Bahamas. So that is satisfied. The next step that we're taking, we are flying with American Airlines. Each airline has their own way of doing this, but American Airlines is using VeriFLY. And VeriFLY is an app. You put it on your phone, and on that app, you are going to upload your vaccination card or your COVID test. Again, if you have a vaccination that is valid, where your shot was at least 2 weeks ago or more, then you upload the card and you're not required to submit the test. If you do not have a vaccination card that reflects that that you're fully vaccinated, like my son, like Marcus, then you need to upload your COVID test. Full lab write-up with the doctor's name, the lab's name, the date of the test, and showing clearly that it was a PCR test and that the coronavirus was not detected in the test. So we each have one of those. We be uploaded, Marcus's, and into Verifly. The other thing that Verifly does is have you go ahead and take a picture. It's a passport style picture, little round picture of your head against a plain background. You're not supposed to smile and you're not supposed to wear sunglasses or hats or anything. So very passport-ish kind of picture. Mine is terrible. And you put in your airline information, your flight information and everything. So it's uploaded. Our hope is that this will help us with our check-in process at the airport. At the airport, they may still ask us for every bit of paperwork that we have. That's part of the reason why I printed these out, so that I know that I have them handy. But we also have the Verifly app. So once you've done that, and that actually, it was pretty easy, but you just have to make sure that all your files are together. When you have your vaccination card, take a picture of it and put it somewhere where you can retrieve it easily, because we've been pulling it into pretty much every document that we've needed. Then the cruise line will have requirements as well. And what Royal Caribbean is requiring is if you are vaccinated, then your PCR test from your entry into the Bahamas will suffice. If you are not vaccinated, you will need to test at the port. So Marcus will need to test at the port. And what they did was they sent every passenger a note, every single passenger, because I got all 4 of them for our family, that said, if you are not vaccinated, then please register. And they're partnering with Doctors Hospital. Basically you just sign up to say, I will be testing. So it's not, you don't sign up for a time or anything like that. It's just letting them know that you'll be there. And that you will be testing. I assume so that they can get some idea of head count and be as proactive as possible in getting people quickly on board. Again, we've already seen one boarding process go, and from all accounts, it went well. They are boarding at, they actually take you from the airport. When you book their transfers, you transfer to the Hilton, and that's where they're doing check-in, because the Bahamas port is not really built for mass check-in, and it also will help them social distance everyone. And then they'll shuttle groups over to the ship as they're checked in. So I'm kind of looking forward to that process. It sounds kind of nice, and the Hilton is pretty swanky. Then there is a health questionnaire. This part we haven't done yet. We won't be able to do it until 24 hours before our flight. And that's through the Verifly app. And it's, as far as I understand, and from my previous flight with Delta, it's basically going to ask me, have you had a fever? Have you been exposed to anybody with COVID? Have you traveled anywhere that is at a risk of whatever level? And a lot of countries just had their levels lowered anyway. So it's now the airlines are asking that, right along with, has anybody touched your bags? It's all part of that process. And the cruise lines will be asking us that same thing, which, by the way, they were asking us before, because again, trying to squelch that rumor of cruise lines being little petri dishes. They aren't. They actually are screening people for health concerns before they get on board. And usually any spread of any nastiness is due to people being irresponsible or not being truthful. So very easy. So those are the 5 steps before getting on board. It looks like a lot, but it really isn't. It's been fairly painless. The most frustrating part of all of it is really that the uploading of documents, making sure you have everything in a format that will go. PDFs are fine, JPEGs are fine. They do have to be native. You can't pull them down. Like the Verifly app wouldn't let Chris pull things down using a server, like if it was going out to, say, Google Drive or something like that. So you have to have it locally stored on your device, but really not hard to do. So that is where we are. If you have any questions, I want to type them into the chat real quick. I can hang out for a few more minutes, but I didn't want to take up too much time. Just wanted to do a real quick, that we've been here about 20 minutes, just to let you know how things are going. And how easy it is. There's a lot, but if you have a good travel agent, they will help you navigate through everything. And again, this video could be irrelevant tomorrow. So for your particular cruise coming up, you'll want to pay attention to the emails that you're getting, and you'll want to be sure that you do every step that's outlined in them. And they may change the steps along the way. They may send you an email on Monday that says you need to do these things, and then they may send you another email on Thursday that says, never mind, we're going to do it this way instead. Just because as things change and as more and more people are vaccinated, they will find newer and better ways to do things. So I don't see any questions in the chat. Thank you for hanging out with me. I see a few of you stuck with me, so I appreciate it. If you have any questions, you can drop them into the comments. I will monitor the comments and respond as I can. Of course, you're welcome to email me or any agent at Outlander Travel, and they will be able to help you navigate this new way to travel. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.